very, I think towards the top of it, she said, I hope I can be as, I know this has been a hard 20 years for you, New York, and I hope that essentially, I hope that I can be as strong and resilient as New York has been over the last 20 years.
Well, that's wonderful.
Class.
So Dan, where are you and Chris today? Not that Chris can't speak for herself.
We're at Chris' house in Elk.
At where?
In Elk. We took a drive about yesterday to Owasso, Michigan, to the railroad museum where the engine that was used for the Polar Express basis and sound effects was.
Oh.
And then we yard sailed on the way back.
I'm shocked.
There were just so many.
But was there anything worthwhile?
Yeah.
Well, my daughter, Carly, a couple of weeks ago asked for a milk can. And I surprised her when I said I didn't have one, but at the first sale we stopped at yesterday, there were I sent her a picture and she was astounded, and now when I get home today, she'll have one.
You really can't have a milk can without a cow, so I think you need to be looking for one of those.
Little yard.
Well, I'll tell Carly that she needs a cow.
Is it an eight gallon can or a 10-gallon can? So you'll know whether to buy a Jersey or a Holstein.
I'll pass that along. I didn't realize there was a difference. It was what I thought was 8 gallons.
If you had to pick one up full, you could tell a difference.
I'll bet. Well, I picked the one up empty and it was heavy. I took it over and the guy that was selling says, they'll never rust through on the bottom. Well, okay.
Okay, while there's a pause in your conversation, I'm going to jump in here. We have a visitor here at the meeting house this morning. It's Esther Kopic. She has been here, attended worship here as a child. So she's here visiting with us this morning. And I pointed out to her, some of you on the screen, that she will remember from childhood. So I just wanted to introduce her to you.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Welcome. Yeah.
Stan's coming in now, so when that's done, we'll have our opening music and center in. We'll be done talking about farm implements and cans for a little bit. We'll see how my message goes.
Feel the pressure yet?
If it doesn't go well, I've got a can to put it in.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, how are you? My mother was my Sunday school teacher. Was she? For a while.
Are there joys and concerns to share as we continue our worship together?
I talked to daughter Kristen yesterday, who's out on Long Island dealing with thousands of waterlogged cars. She was very anxious last Sunday when she was to fly out, and by Wednesday or Thursday, she was feeling comfortable with how things were going, and has been told that she might be there for up to 3 months, up through maybe the end of the year, dealing with all these automobiles that have been totaled by insurance companies, and but she's working 7 to 7 days a week because there are just so many of them to deal with. So I'm sure she could stand a prayer of support.
At Wellesley Friends meeting, we had been making plans to reopen, and we've taken a step back in terms of how open we're going to be. And it feels really disheartening that that we're in this place that even, we're here where we've done a lot in the way of vaccination, our rates are going up, and our sense of vulnerability goes up with it. And it's harder to be in community when you're not in person. So not just for us, but for the nation.
Well, my nephrologist finally called. I expected we were going to have some negotiation about when I was going to have my kidney biopsy, but they just set it up. So it is going to be a week from tomorrow at 8 in the morning. So my son Tim, who lives on the east side, is going to come in and drive me down to Methodist and spend however long I'm there with me. And Lisa's, our daughter, is coming to stay with Nancy. So we've got that all sorted out. But you can pray for the medical team if you'd like, but probably pray for me that I just stay calm and don't wig out. I was telling the nurse when she called me, I said, well, I've only been in the hospital 3 times in my life, and after the first time, I swore I'd never go back. That was when I was 12 and had my tonsils out. And I hadn't been back until I turned, till 5 years ago, or 6 years ago, and so. Well, let's hold these things and others in our prayer. The situation certainly in Afghanistan is not improving. Let's center and hold these things in God's light and love. Loving and gracious God, we give you thanks for this chance to gather. You know the many concerns of our hearts as well as the joys. We lift them all to you. We ask that you would still our hearts and our minds, even if just for a little while, so that we might hear your voice, receive your comfort and your healing in whatever ways we need. Amen. Well, Nancy and I were out on one of our generally daily golf cart rides the other day, utility cart around the farm, just checking things out, checking out Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks and the rest of the chickens, and seeing how the new creek or the rerouted creek is flowing now that the fellow behind us got permission from the Army Corps of Engineer and Natural Resources to put the creek back in its creek bed after massive flooding a few years ago destroyed it. Just watching the New England asters in the prairie starting to come out and all the goldenrod. And so I asked her, which I rarely do, is I said, so what should I speak on? Because she's always happy to tell me what I should speak on. I prefer a higher voice at times, but I hadn't come up with anything yet. She said, I think you ought to talk about seasons. So of course I said, that sounds good, and I decided to speak about seasons, and in this season of her life, she didn't feel well enough to come today. Of course, one of the most famous scripture verses on seasons is from Ecclesiastes, the 3rd chapter. There's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Time to be born and a time to die, a time to plant and a time to uproot, time to kill and a time to heal, time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, time to scatter stones and a time to gather them, time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing, a time to search and a time to give up, time to keep and a time to throw away, a time to tear and a time to mend, time to be silent and a time to speak, time to love and a time to hate, a time for war and a time for peace. I admit I love the seasons. That's one reason I love living in the Midwest. I think the seasons are each so distinct. I was talking to my friend Donna in California the other day, and you know they have fire season and not fire season basically in Northern California. And even in Northern California, where it used to be so moderate, it was almost 100 the other day. They don't really get, she's never seen snow except once, I think, and that was on a trip. But I just love the seasons here, and each seems to have its own charms, though I am most partial to autumn. I like the golden slanting light, the way the shadows are cast across the fields. Even when they're harvested, you see kind of new textures and so forth. And I like how the colors change. I mean, they're still green now, but it's starting to thin out. I can see through my woods. And pretty soon there'll be the leaves changing color, and then they'll just be the stark limbs, arms, as Nancy has often referred to them, reaching up into the gray sky. One thing I've come to observe over the years of living on the farm is, and I never really thought of it this way until yesterday, is how nature submits, if you will, to the seasons. There's not much rebellion against the seasons. They just go along. Nature goes along. One of my favorite poems is by Julie Cadwallader Styled, which some of you may know, the Cadwalladers from Iowa. And she has a poem called Window. It is morning and the whole world is here again. Who knows where this wind has been before rushing past my window? As it raced above the blue whales, surrounded by tiny krill, drifted past the python, draped and waiting in the rainforest, sent the singing fruit bat on its nighttime mission, carrying the warbling vireo's song northward. And the rain is coming. I can smell it in the air. Perhaps it has already passed over ancient glaciers, dimmed miles of forest and fields and towns. Perhaps it is rushing right now across the ocean to our east, dappling the twining sand roses as they uncurl across the dunes, teasing the bees who seek the season's first pollen. Soon it will be here to soak this opening earth, to make the subterranean aquifer sing, to fill the ephemeral vernal pools, so fairy shrimp and water striders, mole salamanders and wood frogs can heed their ancestral calling and hatch another spring. Nature, the trees, the plants, the animals, they go along with the seasons. And that seems to me a bit unlike us. Even with the literal seasons, we opt for control. In winter, many of us Midwesterners, at least those who can afford to, head south to warmer climes. In the summer, North Carolinians head for the Western Mountains. I remember one of the places they used to go was Blowing Park. And it was supposedly very cool up there. I spent a summer there in an inn, and it was not very cool, but it was cooler than down at Greensboro and those places. Unlike us in the metaphorical seasons of our lives too, I think. When we're younger, we want to be older. So we can stay up later, have more freedom, get our driver's license, go on dates, whatever. I remember, I'm 2 years older than my youngest sister. I have three younger sisters. But her mantra was always, it wasn't fair, because I got to do things she didn't get to do because I was 2 years old. Well, it's not fair he gets his license already and stuff. She wanted to be older. She also felt she was more mature than I was, which is probably true. But when we're older, we try to be younger in some ways. I watch the ads and I look at all the supplements to help us recover fading youth, Botox to get away from wrinkles. We seem to rail against the advancing years. Again, when I was, and I know I do, I was talking to Donna on Zoom the other day about her Guatemala project. She's older than me, and she said first that she doesn't feel like a senior citizen. And I thought, well, I don't either, and I don't think many of us do in the same way that our grandparents probably did. Our life expectancies are longer. But we kind of push back against it. I mean, even when I worked at the Center for Congregations for all those years, we talked about the life cycles of churches and congregations from birth to death. And death and maturity was something that was trying to stave off so that a church could rejuvenate, as if perhaps that's not a natural cycle. And yet it is. We go through seasons of life, the seasons through which nature, people, and even congregations pass. Now, certainly Christian faith holds this hope of resurrection. I mean, some Christians talk about it more than we do, I think, but that's always part of there's new life, that there's life in all seasons. And I don't know that nature hopes for anything, but it certainly witnesses resurrection. One of the seasons through which we all passed, every spring, it blossoms to new life, with or without our help. I'm always amazed at the areas where I didn't get to work that year in the woods to clear things out. There's still new life coming up. I'm trying to learn to relax into the season of life that I'm in, with God's help. I remember when my dad was my age and we were building the house we live in at Plowshares Farm. He was an energetic 74-year-old. He and I and one other guy laid the whole second subfloor of the house on a Saturday. He did a lot of supervising, but still he was climbing up and down that ladder and shifting those big sheets into place. But just a few years later, after a day when he and my son-in-law Michael and I were out cutting up wood, he found himself laboring to walk up the hill behind our house. And he looked at me and sighed, "I'm just no good these days, Johnny B." He was discouraged, and I was kind of baffled at first, but I realized he had been judging himself against us younger guys. And now I'm closing in on his age. All I could think of was how good he was in these days, not how bad he was. How much knowledge he had to share with me and Michael that day, his funny stories, his mentoring of young ministers, his taking care of Mom, and how close our relationship was in those years before he passed, the older we both got. And the older he got, the more content he grew and learned and relaxed into his age. I was reading, I keep collections I love Peanuts. So I have huge collections of Peanuts books, and some are about the seasons even. One is my favorite that I always get out, and I put under the Christmas tree just because I identify with Lucy sometimes. It's called "'Tis the Season to Be Crabby." I'm kind of that way about Christmas, as Nancy knows. But yesterday there was one I was looking through, and Snoopy, who I also identify with as a writer, and he always thinks he's somebody he's not, he's just sitting under a tree watching leaves fall. And Lucy, the crab, she walks up and she goes, "Anybody who can just sit here and watch leaves fall must be stupid." And then she walks away and he's still sitting there and he goes, "Well, I'm happy." And I thought, I am now at that stupid place. I am happy. I can sit and watch the leaves fall. I can just enjoy the changes, and am starting to even enjoy asking for help. To call Michael and go, "I need a tree trimmed. I can't do that." Psalm 90 says, "The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength, 80. Well, I'm 70. I'm hoping for 80. But mostly I hope to be useful in this season of my life, helpful in a way that I couldn't be when I was in earlier seasons, to rejoice in what I was earlier, but not mourn it so much. I hope to quit learning to judge my life by aches and pains and what I can't do and lean into what I can. I hope to, as that same psalmist says just a couple verses later, to learn to number my days that I may gain a heart of wisdom. I'm grateful for springtime and summer, autumn and winter, and the lessons they teach, both in nature and in my life. We will now transition from our programmed into our unprogrammed worship. I know some folks need to leave, both online and who are here, so please feel free. And everyone, of course, is welcome to stay for unprogrammed worship. Please speak out of the silence as you feel led. We come to our closing time. Is there anything anyone would like to share before we say goodbye? And have to rise to the level of vocal ministry. Is anything?
My mind is full of images of that choir section being completely full, this room being completely full. My sister and brother being Mary and Joseph with a little baby, and my other sister and I with candles singing Bring It Towards Jeanette Isella for Christmas, Sweet Kids Christmas. So this room is just full of people who aren't here. And it's great.
We're happy to have you here.
I really appreciate what you shared this morning, Brent. It spoke to where I am right now. Thank you.
Well, take care, friends, and we'll hope to see you next week. either here or on screen, wherever you are. Take care.
Bye. Good morning, Mr. Bailey, how are you?
Did you report that?
You're trying to go hide